And then the shark jumped up, and then right when the shark jumped down, he did a little cutback. He got off the nose and went doing a cutback. So it was like the most perfect timing ever. Like the filming and stuff is really cool, but like I'm really like into the social media part of it.
Love it, dude. Because you
So
grew quick.
yeah.
Let's go ahead and get into it. First, let's just go over like, tell them, who is Peyton Willard? Where are you based? What do you do?
My name is Peyton Willard. I am 18 years old. I live in St. Augustine, Florida. I am a professional surf filmer. I filmed, or right now, pretty much, I film like Evan and Eric Geiselman, Ryan Huckabee. I have filmed people like Chloe, Griffin, a lot of the big guys, Caroline. I've been all over the place. I've been through all over the East Coast for swells, California, all over the place in Florida, Mexico. I'm actually about to go to Ireland. And then hopefully for the winter, I'm hoping to go for like 2 or 3 months to Hawaii. We shall see what happens. But I've been doing surf filming actually, I've been doing surf photography for 4.5 years. And then I've been doing surf filming for just over like a year and 2 months.
Which is crazy. Like that's not a long amount of time, and you're already working with and shooting for some of the biggest names in the sport right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at least stateside. What made you want to get into shooting photos, period, and then also into surfing?
It really all started from I was like really interested in meteorology and weather and stuff. And my mom had a camera, so I started taking pictures of like clouds and storms and stuff. And then I had a friend back in 2017 who like convinced me to come take pictures of him surfing. And so I did. And I pretty much just got like hooked by that. Later, like I took pictures of him in January. And then later in March is when the winter storm Riley swell came, which was a really good swell here. So it kind of like hooked me in, and then I just kept progressing. And then I started asking, like there's a couple guys from St. Augustine that I like really blew up in surf photography. So you have Jimmy Wilson, Ryan Miller.
I didn't realize Ryan Miller was from St. Augustine as well.
Mm-hmm, yep.
Wow.
And it just shows like how small the world, and like you don't really realize it, but there's been a lot of surf photography and videography talent that has come out of St. Augustine. Like you also have, I think his name is Drew Miller. He's a filmer in St. Augustine, but he does like commercials and stuff now. But he used to do surf filming, and he was Dane Reynolds' surf filmer.
Wow. So how is it that, you know, like you said, you've only been filming for a year and a half or so, and you know, you've progressed so much in that short time because you're shooting nearly every day. You know, it's funny. I don't think it's the algorithm on Instagram, but I literally see a clip of yours every single day. I think it's just because you post so many clips. Talk to me about the way you've been able to grow so quickly, and you know, just your experience, not just growing on social media, but also just getting better in a short amount of time.
Before I started filming, I took photos for 3 years, and the more I took photos, the more critical I got of it. And of course, I started looking at photos like, because I had the dream of wanting to shoot WSL and WSL talent since I started. So I always looked to like, you know, Jimmy's photos, Ryan's photos, Trevor's photos, who's the tall teeth or tall, I think it's tall teeth.
I follow
You know who I'm talking about though, right?
Yeah.
I always like looked at their photos, so I was super critical. So as I started taking more and more photos and getting different angles and stuff, I started connecting with more people just by like DMing them and stuff, which is how I met like Dunny, Eric and Evan, Ryan and all of them. So then I was pretty much like connected to a point when I started filming last year. And I actually started filming from Michael Dunphy. He pretty much convinced me to start filming.
Really? How did that conversation go? Were you super about it right from the jump as soon as he said you should do this? Or did you have any apprehensiveness, you know, hesitations?
I didn't really like filming at the time. I really just like taking photos because filming is way harder than taking photos. That's for sure. Like you can take a photo, like you can be taking pictures of a guy and like he can start doing a maneuver and you can start taking the photos like if he's like a little bit late. So like if he's doing a snap and he goes up and he's like already like vertical and you start taking the pictures, you didn't ruin the sequence. You're fine. You can just like when he goes and blows the tail out. But when you're filming and you're videoing, if you don't get it from when they're starting to paddle in, it's pretty much like the clip's ruined. Like if you're late to the clip, you're late to the clip and you ruin the clip. So it's a lot more critical and you're having to focus a lot more when you're filming. So that's why I didn't really like filming at the time. And I like taking photos. And plus with photos, I felt like you can be more creative with angles. So like I took one shot at Ponce, I think it was last year during the tropical storm Arthur swell. It was back in May.
Yeah, I remember it.
One of the boardwalks like down the beach at Ponce. And I took this, there was this A-frame barrel that came through and Cory Lopez was in it. And I took the shot and you could see like just perfect blue water everywhere, the jetty in the background, like the crowd and stuff. And it was just like Cory Lopez slotted in the barrel. And I mean, it's just like photos, you can just be way better, like creativity with it.
I get what you mean.
Compared to video, which is what I'm used to is creativity.
Yeah, I like that. So which I think is definitely a good thing in the long run, in terms of your development as well, because like, you know, you have the foundation, the creative foundation, but I get what you're saying though, with you can be more creative with photo because when you can get in the water shots, you can just, you know, you can get one shot. Whereas if a clip and you're so close, only, you know, a second of that 10-second clip is going to even be really usable maybe.
Like there's people that I know that take photos and they try filming and they're like, wow, that's really hard. I can't do it. Like it's hard to like focus on it. Like you need to have that like just discipline of focus in order to make sure that you don't miss the clip and that you have a good clip. Like you get the clip, like start at the right time, that you're focused. And then also what drives me nuts is like shaky clips. Like I can't, this just drive me nuts, especially when I get a clip that's really good and it's like slightly shaky and like literally no one else in the world cares. But like I'm just so critical about it that it just drives me nuts. So I'm also super focused on making sure the clip is smooth and like panning like just perfect.
It is funny how you mentioned that, you know, no one else in the world cares, it feels like, which is frequently the case, unless you're a fellow creative video photo. Then, you know, their eyes trained and a bit more critical. In the previous episode with James Gilbert, he's a photographer, the Jaguars. He mentioned that something that no one else, like his little tip was crank the ISO. Because not a lot of like in low light scenarios, crank the ISO. Us creatives will realize it and see all the grain, but most people have no clue what grain even is.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true.
And so it's funny that you bring up another scenario where, you know, no one else even notices except for us.
Yeah, exactly. Even like when I watch surf edits or other people's surf edits or other people's filming, it's just like dust spots and shaky clips are just what drives me nuts. Like I can't watch it. I just like perfect clips where it's just like perfect panning and a clean sensor.
I feel you. Do you have a particular favorite trip you've been on or a favorite location you've been able to shoot?
Of course, it'll be Hawaii. I went to Hawaii in 2020. But if you exclude Hawaii, probably Mexico. Mexico, when I went in August, it was insane and way different. It's like crazy how much different it is in mainland Mexico compared to America and stuff. It's just way different. But like also on the other hand, it's like crazy how like beautiful it is and how pretty the waves are and how perfect the waves are.
So let's dive into that trip. The edit that came out of it, you had a premiere for at the surf station. It's titled correct me if I butcher this, El Zancudo. Is that correct?
I think so.
What is it? What does it mean?
It means the mosquito.
Is that a little insight into the way the trip went?
So there's a spot and it's called Mosquito, and it's more of just like a really, really, really secret spot. in Mexico that only our tour guide knew about. But it was just like mosquitoes were literally everywhere. Just like you just walk to the spot and there'd be 30 mosquitoes on you.
Wow. If you're not in the water, that sounds like a nightmare. And you weren't in the water. You were shooting
Well,
from the
actually,
shore.
so it was bad, like the trail going to it. But once you got to the beach, the gap winds, which when we were there for the first 4 or 5 days, there's these winds. So mainland Mexico is shaped like this, right? And I'm guessing there's like mountains like between right here.
Okay.
And when you have the strong, when you have cold fronts that come through, you have, the winds that come behind the cold front, and they're pretty strong usually. So when the winds like get funneled into this gap, and they like blow really hard right over Salina Cruz. So when we were there, like it was gusting probably 25 to 30. So the mosquitoes weren't really that bad at all.
Okay. Well, that's nice. That pays off well. It's interesting, even just then when you were describing that, I can tell you're so insightful. You know a lot about weather patterns and geological things. How does that, how do you use that? How frequently do you use that? And for people maybe who are just starting surfing or just don't understand why that's important and even relates at all to surfing and filming, just talked about like your experience with weather patterns in geography and how you use it to predict a swell or, to make sure you're at the right spot on the right day.
So, of course, I look at like every day. I usually use the Windy app because it's just easier. And plus, you have 4 different models on there that you can select from because each model is different. You have the American model, which is the GFS. You have the European model, which is the Euro. You also have the NAM model, which is a high resolution model. And then you have the Icon model, which isn't very accurate. I only use the other 3. And pretty much every day, I'm always looking on the East Coast or in the Atlantic for potential storm systems or potential nor'easters that come, like the nor'easters we get after cold fronts, suck up swells. I'm pretty much just always looking at that. And then there's a wave model. So the Euro has its own wave model, and then the GFS version is called the WW3. And those are just like 2 different wave models per each, like the American version and the European version, which for some reason they're always different besides like the super like hyper like current time, like they're pretty like similar, but like
Okay. Yeah.
usually like a day out they're so different. But those are like pretty much how you try to pinpoint like what's going to happen. And it's really hard on the East Coast to predict swell because you need a storm and the storms are so unpredictable. Unlike like on the California coast and stuff, they get so many swells from the South Pacific that just travel for 10 days, 8 to 10 days to Southern California. So those are pretty easy to predict compared to the Atlantic, where instead of a hurricane moving, like if it moves west an extra 100 miles, that could really just like enhance our waves. Our Atlantic basin is so small and we don't get any south. Well, we every once in a while we'll get a southern hemisphere swell, and it'll be like 1 foot at 20, but like Brazil is really just like shadowing all that swell. So the only swell that we really get is the hurricane swells. And those hurricane swells are so hard to predict because
you've got all the Caribbean islands. And so it turns into a game of pinball, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Where if the storm hits an island or even just like the ocean floor off the coast of one of the islands, it can just, shoot it this way or shoot it that way. Either slower or quicker. That's why it's so hard for us to do like little, strike missions. It happens anyways, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to plan ahead and call out of work way ahead of time because you really don't know until 2 days before, 3 days before that it's probably going to hit there. And then really the day before until you know how big it's going to be, how clean it's going to be, that sort of thing.
Exactly. And like, even like, so this last storm, Sam, a week ago, the Euro model was predicting it to hit the western side of Bermuda and like closer to the United States between Bermuda and North Carolina, the East Coast, and it was forecasting New York to be 10 foot at 15. Now, over the last few weeks, or not last few weeks, last few days, it has forecasted sand to be on the eastern side of Bermuda and like 100 miles off the east coast of Bermuda. So, with that being said, New York is always forecasted to get like 4 foot at 15. So, like, it really just a matter of 100 miles could impact the swell height, swell direction, swell period, like so many things.
And I love it though. It makes it trickier, but then that much more rewarding when you do score, especially if you leave the home base. And like when I went down to Central Florida for the Larry swell, I'd say we scored. And I drove 5.5 hours from Charleston to get there. Had a blast, surf all day for like 2.5 days.
Like hurricane swells are fun and stuff, but usually the winter swells are a lot more not easier to forecast, but they're a lot more, I don't know. Hurricane swells, like you can get skunked really easy. Like I went to North Carolina for, I think it was the Ida swell, and the models were predicting like 8 foot at 14, 8 foot at 15 in North and Outer Banks. And like we drove up there and it was literally like 4 foot at 11. It was literally like barely overhead.
How long is that drive from St. Aug? Like 12 hours?
10 to 12 hours.
To get skunked.
Yeah.
But that's the name of the game sometimes. That's how it works. You score some days and then other days you're a bit unlucky.
I mean, you can still get skunked with the winter swells, but with my past history of like winter swells, like nor'easters or the suck-up swells and like Outer Banks and stuff, like it's usually a lot more consistent. As long as the winds are good, usually the shorter period will be way better. Like shorter period swells are a lot more easy to predict and they're just better because long period swells on the East Coast, like unless you go to like South Beach or certain waves up north and like the slabs and stuff, East Coast is not really like long period at all.
What does your editing workflow look like? After a full day of shooting, I know you're trying to get these clips out to a lot of these pros or even just really good locals ASAP. So talk to me about, the day, 2-3 days following a good swell.
Okay, so let's just say with the Larry swell. The day after the first day of the Larry swell when I filmed, we were actually going to Golden Corral to eat, and I just was in the car editing the clip. This was probably like, I don't know, 30 minutes after we got out of the water. I was editing the clip and posted it on Instagram. I like speed. When I have to when there's certain clips I know that'll do really well, and sometimes they'll go like semi-viral. Like one video during the Outer Banks, it got like 35,000 views. And it's just like when something is really overhyped and like really anticipated, and you have a clip that's like, whoa, that really just happened. You have to I want it out there because it's gonna do really, really well. So during the Larry swell, the first day, I posted 4 clips from the same little edit thing. And it was like 30 minutes after. And then the second day, I got this clip of Griffin and Tupat, which, do you know who Tupat is?
I've heard the name, but I'm not sure I'm familiar with him, but I have heard the name.
Yeah, Tupat is actually a really big deal. He used to shoot and film with Andy Irons and Bruce Irons. He was a big deal at Lost.
Wow.
Yeah, when I was filming with Griffin, or I filmed a wave of Griffin, Tupat was calling it like the combo of the swell. Like he was a huge wrap, and then he did a huge blowtail, and then another huge wrap, and ended it on like a foot overhead wave. It was just like perfect New Smyrna, like blue water and everything.
I remember that clip. It was so fire, and immediately all the local accounts, like the local big accounts for surfing and swell predictions, and even just people were reposting it ASAP.
Yeah, it's literally like I got that up in 15 minutes. I can get clips that fast. Like if I'm in Flagler and I'm filming some nor'easter swell, whatever, and Ryan does some crazy air, I can get it edited in 5 minutes and send it to Stab, Surfline, WSL, and everybody within 10 minutes.
So speaking of virality, you were featured on World Star about a year ago, weren't you?
Yeah, it was like a year and a half ago. Yeah.
Talk to me about what the clip was, or talk to the people. What was the clip? And what was blowing up like?
So I have a video of this vlogger. His name is Alex Hobbs. he was riding a wave on the nose on the going right towards me. And there was a spinner shark that jumped in front of him, and it was like way in front of him. It was like between me and him, and I was probably like a good 1,000 feet away from him. And he was probably like, the shark was like 500 feet, but it looked like it was like right next to him. And then the shark jumped up, and then right when the shark jumped down, he did a little cutback. He got off the nose and went doing a cutback. So it was like the most perfect timing ever. And I was like, that day when I posted it, I was like, I mean, it's not really that crazy of a clip. I mean, it's just a small shark. So I was almost not going to post it, which was the crazy thing. But I did post it, and I posted it on my story, like the post, like sharing the post or whatever. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to tag like World Star. I think I tagged House of Highlights and somebody else. Oh, and Barstool Sports. And I tagged them, and I just like posted it. And World Star just like DM'd me back. And I was like, what? That was like the most unexpected thing ever. Like out of any brand I messaged, it was World Star. I was like the one that I was not anticipating the most.
Right.
Like House of Highlights or something like that. Like, I mean, I guess it's a highlight, it's a sport. But like World Star is more like rapping and fights and stuff, like totally opposite of surfing.
Yeah. Are there any guys that are men or women that create amazing like edits or just shoot really well that you inspire, you get super stoked when you see they drop something?
So Dan Scott, he's a filmer in Australia. His clips, like he makes edits and stuff, but like just watching his clips are insane. Like he's so precise and his clips look so good.
Why is that, do you think?
Well, part of it I think has to do with the red, but he's also, because he has a red, and yeah, red. I want a red really bad. That's like one of the main focuses in the future.
You'll have it in due time.
Yeah, eventually, especially when they get a little cheaper. And then, yeah, I mean, like they have Noah Schweizer, who's a surfer in New Smyrna. He owns his own red, and his red, I forgot which one it is. I think it was like the Komodo something.
Yeah.
Like $6,500. Like they're getting cheap.
Yeah.
Cheaper.
Yeah.
They're not getting cheap, but they're getting cheaper.
Yeah, exactly.
So Dan Scott. Oh, anything John makes with Eric Knutson.
Yeah, their company Parallel C, every edit, fuego. The one I love, honestly, maybe not the most, but that I was frothing over. You dropped about a week ago or so, maybe 2 now. And all it was every clip was in reverse. They flipped it horizontally.
Oh yeah.
So John's a goofy footer now. And as a goofy footer myself, oh, dude, I was just analyzing every turn, every wrap.
Mm-hmm. It was so sick. And it's like, it's just so like, out of the box. Like you don't really think about it, but it worked.
Time for gear talk. This is a section of the show where we talk gear. What are you shooting on? What lenses? What body?
So the body that I'm shooting with right now is a Sony A7R III.
Great choice.
Yeah, the lens that I use on the beach filming like into the actual surf is a Sony G Master 200 to 600 millimeter.
Excellent choice as well. It's a great combo.
Yeah, and then when I do inside the water housing, like photos or even filming in the water housing, I use a 50 millimeter f1.8.
Okay, wow, nice.
I have this other lens. It's just some off-brand lens. I think it's a 16 millimeter.
A wide angle.
Yeah, it's a wide angle. It's like f1.4 or something. It's just some off-brand lens that was pretty cheap because the Sony lenses are super expensive.
Yeah, but high quality as well. High quality glass, and it'll last. Lenses are the best investment. Because they'll last as long as you take care of them. They'll last forever. So Peyton, as we start to kind of wrap up this fun little podcast episode, is this what you want to do for the rest of your life? What's your goal with surf filmmaking?
It is what I want to do the rest of my life, but I don't really know. Like my goals have changed. So of course, before COVID, I was like die hard. I want to work with WSL, right? That's what I want to do. Like say like Ryan Miller and Trevor. I forgot what his last name is, but Tall Teeth.
Yeah.
They just follow around the tour and take pictures, and then they sell the pictures to brands and stuff like that. And that's what I originally wanted to do. But then after when COVID hit and pretty much competitive surfing died out.
Yeah,
Not
it
died out, but
stopped.
like it stopped for a while. And I stopped doing competitions and just pretty much started filming free surfing. It's like it's a lot more interesting, I feel like. I mean,
Less predictable, but that adds to the element of interest.
no, I mean like filming a WSL heat would be cool and stuff, but you don't really have them. You have them thinking more of a strategy and not going all like they do. Like if they're in the final and they're down by like I don't know 7.4 and they need the wave, like, they're gonna go all out and do some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But like most of the time, they're like safety surfing and like strategizing and how to pass on to the next heat. While free surfing is more just like go go go, do like the best you can do, the craziest thing. Especially when there's a filmer there, you're just like trying to stack as many good clips as you can.
Yeah. And there's always another wave in free surfing. In the comp, there might only be 5 more minutes, and who knows how many waves come through in that amount of time. It is crazy and mind boggling though. And this applies to any sport. How you say, well, I guess not any sport, surfing particularly because of the rules within a comp. They're holding back, they're strategizing. So they might not throw the gnarliest air or, stay in the tube as deep as possible because they don't want to risk falling and not getting all the points they could for that wave.
Exactly.
Which is to say, if they're holding back, I want to see these guys when they're not, because they're doing some of the gnarliest maneuvers holding back. It's absurd.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. The only place that I can think of that, like, where they don't really hold back is, what's that place called? Margaret River. Like, John at Margaret River, like, you can tell he loves that place and he does, like, what John does.
Yeah, I feel you. That makes sense. What's been one of your proudest or most exciting moments you've been a part of filming so far, or just on a trip?
Last September, the Hurricane Teddy swell was coming to the East Coast, and like I knew Evan and Eric Geiselman. I like met them before, but I wasn't like as good as friends as I am with them right now. So I was like trying to convince them because at the time I wasn't really their filmer. So I was just filming in St. Augustine at the pier of Gabe and Joel. I was just filming, and then I looked at my phone. I got a text from Evan. It was like, "You still down to go on our trip?" Because they're going up north. It's not really a secret spot, but I'm not going to mention it. I'm just going to say it's north of Outer Banks and south of New Jersey, so it's in that area somewhere. I mean, it's not that secret.
Don't mention it. Keep it secret.
But like it's secret enough where
I
don't really want to expose it. And so that was like the most like, whoa, I'm actually going. So I only had like 2 hours to prepare from filming at St. Augustine Pier to get ready to go and get in the car with them. And then I went up there and that was like one of the more exciting and more memorable moments of my career because that was like one of those like, dang, I'm getting somewhere with this. Like somebody actually wants me to go film with them. Like it's actually like pro.
Yeah.
So then I went up there and I filmed with them. And Eric told me this way after. He wasn't really expecting much from me because he wasn't really sure what to expect, And I've only been filming for like maybe a month before this. So I went up there and I pretty much nailed every clip, And the first session was like, I don't know, 3 hours. And it was pumping, like probably like 7, 8 foot, just perfect waves, hurricane swell. Like it was just insane. And we went to the car and I went straight to posting it on Instagram. And the first clips that they saw were on their Instagram post, on their feed. Yeah.
Wow.
So Eric told me like, yeah, I wasn't really expecting much, but then I saw that. I was like, whoa, this kid's really the real deal.
Yeah, he's about it.
That's sick. Yeah, it just stoked me out to see that like people are actually recognizing that I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do, and I want to be the best at what I'm doing.
And they're recognizing and appreciating the speed and the work ethic. Not everyone's gonna pick up on that. They might just be like, "Oh, sweet, that's a cool photo from today's session." But dude, you put that in the computer, maybe put a LUT on it or something, exported it all in 15 minutes. Like that's impressive, right?
Yeah. And then actually another moment that I just thought of was last November. I was working in my backyard and I got a call from Daniel Terry, which he is I think I'm not sure if he's a rep. He has something to do with Volcom,
Okay.
Jacksonville, Volcom and stuff. And I got a call from him, and he was like, "Hey, so me and Jimmy Wilson, we recommended you to Stab for filming the Red Bull Night Riders in Jacksonville." And I was like, "Oh, okay, thanks." And he said, "Yeah, Ashton, the guy who is the director of Stab, he's gonna be calling you in a minute." So I was like, oh, "Okay." So a few minutes went by, and Ashton called me and told me like, "Hey, yeah, we're looking for a filmer, like a guy, like a local kid that like just got into filming and stuff, and is trying to make it into like the surf world. And we got recommended you from several people, including like Jimmy Wilson." And I was like, "What?" That's like one of those moments where you're like, "Dang," like you don't really know how to describe it, but like it was just a really like memorable moment that I was mentioned by one of the best to ever do it, but also to a company that is probably the biggest surf brand in the world right now.
Absurd.
Yeah.
That's so sick. So Peyton, for others who may want to become a surf photographer or videographer like yourself, what advice do you have?
Well, the first thing I would say, and it's pretty cheesy, it's what every photographer would ever say, is just keep shooting, but also be critical of your shooting. And like, you just got to be critical. And like, I wouldn't say like, I mean, of course, strive for perfection with your clips or your photos or whatever. Get the best that you can possibly get. And then also make connections, connect with anybody and everybody. That's pretty much how I went from where I was 4.5 years ago to now. It's just slowly moving up the rankings of meeting more and more new people and stuff. So, I mean, it led me to from shooting the local kids at the pier, who are my friends now, to I mean, having lunch with Kolohe and Griffin and all them, and touring around New Smyrna Beach with Kolohe.
I think the benefit of the surf world is that it is fairly small, and who doesn't want clips of themselves, right?
Yeah, as long as you grind. Yeah, like I had to grind it out, days of filming, no matter what, if there were waves or not. Oh yeah, I guess if there were, like, no matter what, if there was any swell, like any swell you get in Florida is just like you have to hop on it,
Yeah.
or it's not going to last long. So like just days and hours of grinding and filming. Like there were days where I would shoot 5, 6, 7 hours. Like I was just at Waco, Texas, and I was filming with the Vans team, and I shot for 7.5 hours.
So Peyton, on any given day of shooting, what's more likely to run out first? Your batteries or your SD card?
Neither, because I have 8 batteries, and then I also have a 512 gigabyte card.
So on those 7-hour days of shooting, you're set. Like you have what you need.
Each battery usually lasts 2 to 3 hours, so I can film for, I don't know, like 16 to 24 hours if I really needed to.
Have you ever had a scenario where, I mean, it's not the greatest feeling to miss a good shot, but there's always more waves to come around. But have you ever had a scenario where you accidentally deleted your SD, you formatted the SD card from a whole day of shooting, or something on the beach happened, an altercation or anything like that?
No, I'm really, really lucky that it hasn't. I always look around with the surfers like, "Oh, my car was formatted." But no, I'm really, really lucky that hasn't happened. I've heard of people like getting like corrupted files and stuff, and it does scare me a little bit sometimes. But as long as I don't format the card, like you can bring back a corrupt file from like a software or whatever. But the formatted card like hasn't happened yet, and it hopefully won't happen.
You've given a lot of shout outs so far, but who are two fellow creatives that you think everyone else should follow aside from yourself?
I mean, Jimmy Wilson, he's definitely helped me out with any questions I've ever had. The thing with Stab, with the recommendation, he's just a really cool guy. He also helped me with working with the Vans team in Waco this past week.
Yeah. What was that experience like?
It was actually super sick. So, of course, everything's paid for. So I can just I'm just chilling in the plane. Like, I don't have to pay for anything. This is cool. I just get a free trip. So they had in Waco. Have you ever been to Waco?
I have not.
Okay. So you have the
Yet.
pool, and then you have this huge like building And on the bottom is like the workspace or whatever for the BSR people. And then the top is like hotel rooms.
Okay.
So the vans try to book out all the rooms for everybody, but the rooms were there was 5 rooms and 4 of them were open, but the last one wasn't. So like it was like booked out or whatever. So me and Mickey Clark, which I don't know if you know who Mickey Clark is. He was on like Stab High's riding for vans now.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah. We had to go and stay in a cabin. And one of their cabins, like it's on the property, it's like down the ways a little bit, but it was pretty much like a mini house. It was huge just for us two.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's cool that they had that though. I mean, it just adds to the experience because if you go other times, you're more than likely probably going to get a room.
Yeah.
But it's kind of neat. You got to stay in the cabin at least once.
Yeah, that was super sick. And then, of course, after 7.5 hours of filming, they had the pool rented out for 8 hours.
Yeah.
So the last like 45 minutes, they let me go surf the wave pool.
Oh,
And,
that's
like,
sweet.
Yeah, so it's a private session. So they have all the private waves, like the wedge. I got to surf the wedge twice, and then they had the normal lowers wave, which is what they always wanted first. They just kept using for whatever reason. So I got to surf that. It was sick.
It's so cool they can emulate different waves based on what people might want.
And the waves could be way bigger than what they are. They could be twice the size, but like where the waves are breaking now is literally like shin deep.
Yeah, and it's concrete, right?
Yeah, it's concrete.
So
like,
if they were like way high, that's just a mad hazard. Are there any differences in filming at a wave pool versus filming on a natural break?
yeah, I like filming on a natural break way better actually. So a wave pool, like wave pools are cool to film at, but they're just pretty repetitive.
And you're not likely to get a spinner shark coming into the frame as well.
Yeah, exactly. You're not like in like nowadays, like there's so many people against the wave pool, and like if somebody does a backflip in a wave pool, like it's cool, but it's not as highly respected as somebody who does it in the ocean because you have the most perfect section in the world in the wave pool. While the ocean, you're having to actually search for it, and if you do it in the ocean and land it, it's like a lot more respected. And in the ocean, it's a lot more sporadic, I guess.
Okay,
it's a lot more sporadic. So like if you do something in the ocean, it's way cooler, of course, and plus, it's a lot more like rewarding, I would say, if you get a good clip in the ocean compared to a wave pool.
Is there room for additional creativity, or does it lack creativity at a wave pool than in the ocean?
Yeah, I would say it definitely lacks creativity at the wave pool. Like you can only do so many angles at the wave pool that nobody has already, like everybody has literally gotten every single angle possible at the wave pool.
Yeah. Especially with productions like Ultimate Surfer and stuff, right?
Oh yeah, like Ultimate Surfer or like Stab High was at Waco, or like of course you have literally pretty much every professional surfer that has a name that's on North America or in North America has been to Waco. And they have crazy filmers that go there. So like everything is pretty much like you can't do anything that's creative anymore there.
Well, that wraps it up. Thanks everyone for tuning into this episode with Peyton Willard. Make sure you follow him on Instagram, TikTok, anywhere else.
YouTube. I actually have the Thriller app now.
Fun chatting with you, dude. Thanks for coming on Blue Ass Water.
Yeah, of course. Super stoked. Thank you for having me.